a deceiver, and a fraud. But the magician is not just any deceiver. He openly tells you in advance that he's going to lie to you through words and through actions. And so with him, at least, you are forewarned, contrary to all the other liars that you may encounter in life. And so you know not to trust him. Yet, despite your distrust, I will, hopefully, then convince you of the truth of his lies. So if there's anything that I, as a magician, can tell you about trust, it's the following. You may distrust a person, even decide to distrust all their actions and claims, and yet fall for that person's lies. You may be very well on your guard and still fall prey to someone's manipulation and deceit. And in that sense, there's never enough distrust, and you never distrust enough, as you are about to see. Because in order to prove the truth of my claims, I will first maximize your distrust and then demonstrate that you are still not being sufficiently distrustful. I think there's no better way of doing that and of getting you to distrust me than by telling you in advance not only that I lie, but how I lie to you. So in other words, I will first explain a trick, then do it. How does that sound for a plan? Well, unfortunately, as a magician, I'm not allowed to reveal any secrets. But lucky for us, the illusion that I'm about to show you was already explained 400 years ago by a French magician named Thomas Lescaut in a small pamphlet that he sold after his shows. And so instead of explaining the trick myself, I can just quote his explanation. Here we go. Have 3 rings made of metal. Saw a big opening into one of these rings. Then always hide that opening in your hand while pushing the other rings through the opening and pulling them out again, thereby forming a chain and unlinking it. And if you always hide the opening well in your hand, this is going to be extremely mystifying to your audience. Well, as you can see, over the course of the past 400 years, the number of rings has increased slightly. But for the rest, this is still the same illusion. Ladies and gentlemen, the linking rings of Thomas Lescaut. And now that you know what this is all about, I will actually need the assistance of somebody from the audience to hold these 3 rings for me. Let me see whether I can find someone whom I can trust. Well, madam, you here in the first row, if you would hold these 3 rings between 2 hands, like a steering wheel, but then above your head so the rows behind you can also still see them. And by the way, you can stay in your seat if you want. In the meantime, I will show you what you could possibly do with 3 rings and a little bit of a decent instruction by Thomas Lescaut. Could I have one more ring, please? Yes. And you see, this is the moment where you realize that it's fine art. You can learn it in a minute. With a little bit of a decent instruction, though. Thank you. Well, thank you. Would you go through the reverse process as well, handing me back one ring? And if that doesn't seem quite possible, and you need to return all 3, you can give me 3, but then I will give you 2 in return. Would you please hold these in separate hands, though? Thank you very much. Just one. Thank you. Now, if any of this looked the slightest bit mystifying to you, maybe you'll need to think back to the explanation that Tomalesco gave. Have a couple of rings made of metal, saw a big opening into one of these rings. Then always hide that opening in your hand while pushing the other rings through that opening and pulling them out again, thereby forming a chain and unlinking it. And if you always hide the hole well in your hand, this is going to be extremely mystifying. To your audience, you've been forewarned.